Now the Amplified, the good thing about the Amplified is it amplifies the Greek words which are translated into English for us and gives us all the shades of meaning that might not be apparent in a single word. It says, this is the service that God asks of you, that you believe in the one whom He has sent. And now the Amplified translation amplifies for us the word believe. In case we don't understand what it means to believe, here's what it means. That you cleave to, trust, rely on, and have faith in His messenger. The messenger, of course, is Christ. Notice these words. Cleave to, trust, rely on, have faith in Him. That's what it means to believe. Not just to believe that He exists. You know, sometimes people say, well, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Well, that's good. That's good as far as it goes. But you know what? The devils also believe that. They know He's the Son of God too. But you see, what it means to believe in Him is to cleave to Him. To trust in Him. You see, that makes a difference. Not just to believe that He exists, but that we cleave to Him. That we trust in Him. That we rely on Him. That we have faith in Him. Now notice the question is, what do we do to do what God requires and to fulfill what He's asking of us? Well, here's what God is asking from us. To put your trust in Jesus. Did you know everything else flows from that? Everything else in your life comes from... This is the one work that pleases God. The one thing that we can do that puts us right in the bullseye of what God is asking us to do is to believe in Jesus. Everything else that flows out of that is good. Everything else in the Christian life is supposed to be a byproduct of our faith in Him, of our walk with Him, of our trust in Him. So He's trying to get their attention and say that to them. Here's what God requires, that you believe. This is the work of God. Let's go back to the King James, Anton. Let's read it since we've got the Amplified here. Jesus answered and said unto them, this is the work of God, that you believe on Him whom He has sent. Well, it's pretty straightforward. And if you ever have a question about what does God want you to do, He wants you to put your trust in Jesus. Now, when I was first a Christian, first starting out, I was really consumed with the fact of I wanted to do in my life what God wanted me to do. And I used to pray that way, oh God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Thinking some like vocation or some kind of task, or like, maybe He wants me to be a missionary and go off to, someplace I don't want to go. Something. That's the way I thought about it. Surely, somehow I got the idea in mind that God, what He's going to want us to do is something that we don't want to do, or something totally unsuited to us. I don't know how I got that idea, that whatever it is that you don't want to do the most, that's what He's going to ask you to do. I found out it's just the opposite. That God knows us better than we know ourselves, and what He has for us to do, as far as vocation and occupation, is something that suits us perfectly. He knows us better than we know ourselves. He has a life in mind for us that suits us and satisfies us and is perfectly suited to who we are, because He knows who we are. He's not out to put you try to force a round peg into a square hole. I don't know what we think sometimes. God's some kind of sadistic monster, No, not at all. He knows us. He knows who. But listen, how are we going to get to that position where He wants us to be? Well, only one way, by trusting Him. Now, we would like for Him to float down a little roadmap out of heaven and say, tomorrow do this, next day do that, and then 2 weeks from now, here's what you do, and then here's what's going to happen 1 year from... He doesn't do it that way, because if you had that wouldn't be trusting Him. You would just jump up and do it yourself. That's what I would have done. Anybody would do that. So what He asks is, today, this is Sunday, what date is this? Sunday the 22nd, February the 22nd. Today, on this day, God says, I want you to trust me today. Put your faith in me, rely on me today, February the 22nd. And tomorrow when you get up out of bed, say, God, I guess I'll trust you today too. And if this sounds so simple, but if we would do that, He has a way of leading us and guiding us and getting us into the position He wants us to be in. If we don't do that, we go our own way and we get off no telling where we'll end up. Does that make sense? So, that you believe on the one whom He has sent. He's the good shepherd, and the good shepherd leads the sheep, you see. And we as the sheep, all we need to do is hook up with that good shepherd and say, here I am, good shepherd, lead me today. And he leads us day by day. In a minute here, we're going to find out that He's the manna that came down from heaven. Do you know that in the Old Testament, when they were in the wilderness and they didn't have anything to eat, God rained down manna from heaven? The reason it's called manna, in the Hebrew language, the word manna means, what is it? They looked at that and said, what is that? Manna, that's the word. Manna, what is it? But they went out and gathered up enough manna for that day, but they couldn't save it. Did you know that? They went up and got what they needed for that day, and they could consume it, and it satisfied them and fed them for that day. But they didn't get tomorrow's manna today. In other words, you couldn't go out today and get tomorrow's manna, so you don't have to go out tomorrow. I think I'll sleep in tomorrow. Every day you had to go back and get the manna for that day. He led them and He fed them day by day. That's why in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus said, give us this day. Did you ever notice He said that? Give us this day our daily bread. See, that's why at the beginning of all of our services, I always pray and say, Lord, give us today what you want us to have today, you see. And it wouldn't hurt for you to tell Him that tomorrow, too. You know, we are only here once a week, but you see, He leads us day by day. Not a roadmap of the whole course of your life. That'd be nice, but He leads us and we follow Him day by day. Okay, they said therefore unto Him, what sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe? What work dost thou doest? What dost thou work? Well, they've already seen Him feed 5,000. That was pretty good. I don't know what else they're asking for. But here's what it is. Go on reading and you see what they had in mind. Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written. He gave them bread from heaven. What they've got in mind is, if you want us to believe in you, just keep giving us bread that we don't have to pay for. And then said Jesus unto them, trying again to turn their attention to the more important spiritual point. Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. He's correcting their perception of it. They said, Moses gave us bread, so you give us bread. And He's pointing out to them, no, you know what? Moses didn't really give you the bread. My Father gave you the bread. God gave you the manna from heaven. And so if you want what God's got, here I'm getting ready to tell you about it. For the bread of God, verse 33, is He, meaning Jesus, He which comes down from heaven and gives life unto the world. Then said they unto Him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He wants to make sure you get this point. He Himself, He's already said, believe in Him. That's the work of God. Now I'm the bread of life. He that comes to me shall never hunger. He that believes in me shall never thirst. That means He satisfies those that come to Him. That's what He has in mind, to completely satisfy those that come to Him. I've talked to people before in counseling with people, different things, and they're Christians and they're disappointed with their life. And I came to Him and I'm not satisfied. People said that to me. Well, my answer is, stick with Him. You're still breathing, aren't you? Jesus said, whoever comes to me will be satisfied. And I say, hang in there with Him then. If you want me to do something, I'm not bigger than Jesus. All I can do is say what He said. Stick with Him, and come back to Him. In other words, not that you've gone away, but we just need to keep our attention focused on Him. Verse 36, but I said unto you that you have seen me and believe not. All that the Father gives me shall come unto me. Listen to this. All that the Father gives me shall come unto me. So if we have come to Him, then we must be those He's talking about. Notice what He says to those that come to Him, as we have. Him that cometh to me, I will in no wise cast out. Now, do you think we could take these words to heart? I mean, do you think Jesus is just sort of trivially speaking, frivolously talking, didn't really mean it? No, I don't think so. I think He means everything He says here. Notice what He says about those who come to Him. Now, as Christians, listen, the reason we're here on a Sunday morning when we could be doing something else is because we are people who believe in Jesus. We have come to Him. And He says about those that come to Him, Him that cometh to me, I will in no wise cast out. Now, I've talked to people again, and I hate to keep referring to this, but sometimes people say, but you don't know what I've done. True, but Jesus does. Don't you think He does? And Jesus said, whoever comes to me, I will in no wise. Now this is very polite, don't you agree? Very polite, formal King James language. In no wise. I never say that in my ordinary language. I don't ever say in no wise when I'm speaking to somebody. If you hang around Alva, Oklahoma, the way people talk is, ain't no way. That's what people would say. And so if Jesus were around today, perhaps He would say, if He were preaching in Alva, whoever comes to me, ain't no way I will ever cast him out. Perhaps, or maybe not. But you get the idea. In other words, under no circumstance, under no condition will I send away the one who comes to me. Why do you think He's saying this? Why do you think this is in the Bible, by the way? I like to stop every now and then and ask the question, why is this in my Bible? Well, the reason this is in your Bible is so that you can read it and take it to heart. Because this is His attitude about you. Because you have come to Him, there under no circumstance will He send you away or cast you out.